factor it. So we are going to do together, just take a pause, and we're going to do a days 1 through 5 review, starting all the way back to your factoring. Okay? Again, you've done a lot this week. Let's kind of pause and then practice what you know at this point. So the first thing we started with on days 1 and 2 was factoring. I'm going to go days 1 and 2 was all about just can you factor. Again, I'm going to start nice and easy. I want to give you one of each type, basically it. And if you want another one, please just say so. But I want to go through each of your concepts and then you'll repractice those again tonight. So number 1 here. I want us to factor 35 plus 45x. All right, so starting off super easy. What was the first method of factoring that we did? GCF. Is this a GCF? Yes. So this is a GCF. Why? Because these have something in common. They are both divisible by. Good. If you like doing things like this, please feel free to do that. And then I get my answer. So I have 5, and I am left with 35 divided by 5 is 7. And then 45 divided by 5 is 9. And then I also need the x. Perfect, done. I'm going to go right on the side of that problem because this one's short as well. And I'm going to give you something like this. And again, I want you to think back to the methods of factoring that we discussed and see what this one is. So the first thing you always ask yourself, is there something in common with these? What do we think? Are they both divisible by something? Yes, and do they have letters in common too? Yes, so this is another GCF, it's just slightly more challenging. I gave you one more of those. Okay, what's the largest number we can divide by? Just 2, right? And just 2. And then as far as, yep, and then I can take the smaller of the x's, so I can take x to the 4th. Again, if you like showing this underneath, you can. If you don't like it, then skip it. I have 2x to the 4th. 20 divided by 2 is 10. I need one more x to get me to the 5. And then 18 divided by 2 is 9. And we have all the x's accounted for, so you are done. All right, how does everyone feel in the first 2? Good? Okay. Again, my goal for you when you leave today is to feel better and to feel confident with, your material 1 through 5. So number 3, now I'm going to move on to something that looks like this, and your task is to factor it. So my question for you is, does this still have a GCF? Do they have anything in common? Don't think too hard. No. So now go on to method 2, difference of 2 squares. Watch it. Do I have subtraction? Yes. Do I have 2 terms? Yes. Even exponents? Yes. And is 1 a perfect square? Yes. Those are the 4 things that need to run through your head when you decide difference of 2 squares. And now it's easy. It requires no work. You do this and alternate your signs. So square root of 1 is 1, and it goes first because it was written first. And I go plus and minus, and then the x squared just becomes x and x. Okay. Number 4, also pretty quick, just a little bit tougher. So how about this one, 100, and I want to go x to the 6th, and then I want to go minus 1. So is this one a GCF or is this one dots? Dots, yep. And write these nice and neat too because they're in the same order as your homework is tonight. So you can kind of refer back to them if you need to. So square root of 100 becomes 10. Yeah, do this at your own pace if you like doing it nice and slow. And then I take the 6 x's and I go 3 and 3. So I chop them in half. That's why it has to be even. And then I alternate my signs. So I go plus and minus. And then square root of 1 is 1. Okay. Does everyone feel good and solid on the first part? Good. That is my intention. Again, it's important that you understand the factory because we've got to utilize that skill for everything after this. Okay, now I move on to number 5. So I'm going to go x squared plus 10x plus 24. And again, I want to walk you through the processing that goes on in your head with these. The first method I always check for is GCF. Do these have anything in common? Nothing in common. Then you move to difference of 2 squares. Does this have 2 terms? No, that's out. So what is this one? Trinomial. Yep. Just the super fast one. So your leading coefficient is just 1. So what you're going to do is you're going to find numbers that multiply to 24, bless you, and they need to add to be 10. Anyone know it? 6 and 4 or 4 and 6. Perfect. Either order is fine. Done. Okay. Now how about this one? I'm going to go 5x squared and minus 10x minus 400. Okay. First method of factoring that we always check for is GCF. Does this have one? It does. Yep. Everything's divisible by 5 here. I'm going to divide by 5, divide by 5, divide by 5. It is up to you if you want to show that. Again, it's important to me that you're getting these right. So whatever little tricks you need to use, please do. So I am left with x squared minus the 2x. And then I have 400 divided by 5, which is, yep, very good. Whenever you factor, you always need to factor completely as far as it can go. So this has an additional step. How do I know that? I'm left with a squared here. I have an 80 over here, so it looks like it's a trinomial. So now I'm going to ask what multiplies to negative 80 that adds to negative 2. This one's pretty easy, even though it's large. Negative 10 and 8. Good. So the 5 stays. This one's trinomial from here. Please make sure you're writing your little methods. Again, that's always partial credit on tests and quizzes. And then I'm going to go x minus 10 and x plus 8, done. My x's are degree 1 at this point, so that's how I know I can't go any further. All right. Then we get into what is called a quartic trinomial. That just means degree 4. So I'm going to write that over here only because when you go to do homework tonight, it's going to categorize your problems. So if you need to look back, that's what these are called. Okay. I'm going to go 7. I'm going to go x to the 4th, and these bother people, plus 2x squared minus 35. This is the same process as what we did up for 5 and 6. It just looks more challenging. So how do I split x to the 4th? What do we do? X squared, perfect. Again, don't overcomplicate it because it looks different. And now all I'm going to do is find 2 numbers that multiply to be negative 35. I'm going to ignore this x squared, and they need to add to be 2. So what multiplies to negative 35 adds to 2? 7, I heard it, and got it. Just like that. Now, you always want to check and make sure these don't go further. In this case, you're probably looking at this like, oh, it might be dots. The only reason this is not dots, can you square root 5 evenly? No, you're done. I'm going to give you one more of that type again because I see students struggle there. So here's another one called quartic, degree 4. So x to the 4th plus 3x squared minus 4. Again, start with what you know. This x to the 4th becomes x squared and x squared. And now all I need to do is find two numbers that multiply to be -4, and they need to add to be 3. Ignore the x squared. It would get taken care of if you multiply this out. Multiply to -4 adds to 3 would be, excellent. Yep, she's right. +4 and -1. Now you're going to look at what results. X squared plus 4 can't go further. It's a plus. But what can we do with x squared minus 1? Dots. Good, only because of the minus. So this is now going to be difference of 2 squares to finish. I go x squared plus 4, followed by x plus 1 minus 1. Okay. A little bit more with the factoring before we get back into your solving. Are there questions on those 8, or is that helpful so far? Okay. Again, I want it to be helpful. It's important to me that you understand those. Okay, I'm going to flip this, and this is a different method. Anyone need a second? Okay. So I'm going to go number, I think I was on 9. Your task is still to factor. So I'm going to go x cubed minus 4x squared plus 25x minus 100. Okay, what method is this one? Say again. Grouping is correct. Yep. Right down the middle. Anytime you got those 4 terms and it's not a GCF. Yep, so this is your giveaway for grouping. So we're going to do grouping. Again, right now, all you're doing is just factoring. You don't have to solve it. So I'm going to take out x squared. I'm left with x minus 4. I go over to the other side and I take out the positive 25. And I'm left with x minus 4. So almost there, you're just going to put this back together. So I get x squared plus 25. And I also get x minus 4. And actually, you're lucky on this one because this does not go further because it's addition instead of subtraction. Okay. How is the grouping? Good. Next category. So number 10. Again, I'm giving you like 1 or 2 of each. So I want to know what method of factoring is this one. Yep, excellent. This one's AP. So again, my quadratic is A, B, and C. And we call it AC method because you multiply your A coefficient times your C coefficient. So I go 5 times 12 is equal to 60. And I am looking for 2 numbers that multiply to be 60, adding in the middle to 19. This is where you have to just play around with your calculator. Let's see, 60 is divisible by 15 and 4. That works, that gives me 19. So now I'm going to continue. And I'm going to go 5x squared plus 15x plus the 4x. And again, you're allowed to do that because it still adds to the 19 that was in the middle. Once you're at this step, you're doing the same exact thing we did in number 9. So you're doing grouping. So right down the middle. Left side, I'm going to take out a 5x. I am left with x plus 3. Other side, I take out a 4. And I'm left with x plus 3. Remember, those have to repeat. If they don't repeat, then you have some sort of error in your question. So my end result becomes 5x plus 4. Bless you. And x plus 3. Okay. There's how we found the AC method. Better? Okay, just take a second. I'm not going to give you a second one of those because, again, I want to hit all your topics. So now I'm going to move over. I'm going to skip my number 11 on my sheet. So I'm going to call this number 12 just on purpose. So I'm not going to give you another AC. I'm going to jump into something like this. Again, use as much paper as you need to. There's more up in the corner there. I just wanted to make it nice and thick so that you knew it was important, so you refer back to it. What method is this one? Cubes. Excellent. So what I'm going to start by doing is I'm going to divide my exponent by 3. So divide exponent by 3. So this gives me v minus, I'll just start and set it up here. And then what we're going to do is we use the calculator for this. We did the cube root of 1. And what was the cube root of 1? Just plain 1. Yep. Then there is a pattern. The pattern is square multiplied square. So you want to think in your head, square, multiply them together, and then square again. I think that's easier than memorizing a formula. So I take this first one and I square it to get v squared. I'm going to switch my sign to plus. I multiply the two together. So v times 1 is just plain v. And then I square the last. So 1 squared is 1. How's that type? If you need more of those are new day 2 notes. You have a bunch. So now I'm moving to D3 material. And this is where we started getting into solving quadratics. And there are various strategies to go about this process. So I'm going to do this on your yellow sheet. Again, please write as large as you would like and take more paper if you want it. So we did solving quadratics. You will have 3 options when we are done with this full chapter. So when we do solving, the first thing we started with is factoring. This is when you guys did it further and you did the T-chart. I'm going to abbreviate. The disadvantage of this method is it doesn't always work. Then we moved into what we did 2 days ago. What procedure did we do after factoring? Completing the square. Yep. Completing the square is very lengthy. So again, you don't really want to do it unless you absolutely have to. The third one that we're not going to get into till tomorrow, but it will be an option, is called your quadratic formula. Okay. So I'm going to give you a solve by factoring and a solve by completing the square. Just again to reinforce those procedures. Question number in my mind. I'm going to call this one 14 because I skipped another cubes one. Again, I just want to make sure we get as much as we can. I'm going to flip this. Anyone need a second? Okay, so I'm going to call this number 14. So it lines up with my examples here. It's going to say solve. Or find all solutions, something like that, bless you. Plus 8x equals -7. I'll do specifically solve by factoring. I'm going to abbreviate. When we solve by factoring, what does this need to be equal to? 0. That's why all these procedures start to get confusing because they're all different. So I need to start and go +7 + 7. I am left with x squared plus 8x plus 7 equals 0. Now you select a method of factoring. What's this one? Binomial, good. So multiplies to 7, adds to 8. I'm going to go x plus, 1, and x plus 7. Excellent. Now on days 1 and 2, we stopped there. Day 3 is when we added on one more part. And again, this is the easy part. I t-chart and get the 2 answers. Flip the signs. X is equal to? Yep. Perfect. Done. Okay, that's a solve by factoring. I'm going to give you one more quick solve by factoring and one completing the square. How about that? Again, I just want to give you one of each again. So solve by factoring. This one will be quicker. And I want to go x squared plus 6x equals 0. What type of factoring is this one? GCF, nice eye. I take out x, I'm left with x plus 6, and then I t-chart these. So right down the middle, first answer is 0, second answer is -6. Okay, so it brings me to my last. So my last question is a solve by completing the square. Because we'll save the imaginary for tomorrow. I'm going to say 17 because I'm skipping one. And this is going to be your day 4 notes if you need to look back. And this was completing the square. So let's go 5x squared plus 100x plus 460 equals 0. What do I need to do with the 5 first? Divide everything by 5. We're going to do divide by 5, divide by 5, divide by 5, and technically divide by 5. So I am left with x squared plus 20x. Anyone have that yet? What is 460 divided by 5? One what? 92, thank you. Plus 92 equals 0. Appreciate that. Now, when we do completing the square, is it supposed to be equal to 0? Nope. What do I have to move? Again, these procedures are kind of different. That's why we're reviewing those. So I have x squared plus 20x equals -92. And now I continue. So I take the 20 and I take half of it. And I get 10. And what do we do with the 10? Square it, we get 100, and I add it to both sides. So I'm left with x squared plus 20x. You guys really shouldn't see any homework problems that have the fractions in them, okay? Because again, those aren't great problems to have to do completing the square with, and there will be an easier method down the road. I take this and factor it. Where does the factoring come from? The middle. Use that number, or you can think. So x plus 10 squared is equal to 8. Plus and minus square root. Plus and minus square root. Almost done. So I get x plus 10 is equal to plus and minus. Okay, I'm sorry, you have to break down 8, but this one's tiny. What's the biggest perfect square in 8? 4 and 2. So the square root of 4 becomes 2, and the other guy just stays inside. Okay? Simplest radical form always. Then I'm going to go minus 10, and all I'm going to do is just place that number right here in front. So it goes right there. So my answer is negative 10 plus and minus 2 radical 2. Okay? So that's a review of your first 4 days. What I'd like you to do, and I want to give you a couple minutes to start that right now, is your assignment for tomorrow, is due tomorrow, is on Delta Math. Please make sure right now that you can get on to that. I'm going to give you a very short quiz on Monday. So right now you have time to kind of digest this stuff. Okay? So please let me know in the next 5 or so minutes if you can't get into Delta Math so that I can resend you the code. I don't remember offhand if you're all in or not. So again, for homework, you are completing problems just like these that are right on Delta Math, okay? It is not graded for accuracy, it is graded for completion, but please take that opportunity and see how you're doing and what you still need help on.